Everyone says that AI can write, but can it actually sound like a real author? Today we're testing GPT-5 versus Claude in a creative writing battle. Which AI actually feels like a writer? Let's find out.
Warning: the following contains footage of what happens when two untrained professionals click buttons with zero training. We have no idea what we're doing.
We're just a PM and an engineer trying to figure out AI. If you're on the same path, subscribe and learn with us.
I think it's pretty good. Has M dashes, which is telltale sign of AI, but just the content alone, I'm pretty impressed so far.
It was super fast. I thought it was, yeah, the M dashes thing is very interesting because I feel like there's a lot of M dashes in actual print books where like if you put this in a real book, people wouldn't care that much. But yeah, on like written content on the internet, it's always like a big giveaway. So let's try doing this one. So it did good with the initial prompt. It did good with the initial story, and I'm guessing like if we continue, it'll use some of the context. So let's try this prompt where we want to figure out like how good it is about micro scenarios. So very again like very unique story. Like this is like I don't know any book that has all these things written about it, but that's why I'm trying to figure out how well it does with like really creative writing. So here's high stakes scenarios for Lena. Restoring an interview, she detects faint weeping beneath the testimony. So choice A, edit out the weeping. Choice B, preserve the weeping even if it distracts. Short-term gain,
Hmm.
long-term gain. Very interesting.
I do like the short term and long term.
Yeah, very interesting way to kind of structure it. And also, these prompts were generated by AI as well, so it's it's AI prompting AI, so it's always fun that way.
So meta.
Trigger damage focused on tape as one surviving verse. I mean, generally, I feel like it's pretty good. If I'm like trying to figure out like how to bring this into my book or my story, I can think through like the different choices and figure out which one I actually want to do, and maybe that helps me unblock some of my writer's block.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. It's really cool to be able to just lay out the options that you have in front of you, even if they're not all the options that you want, but just the ability to see options generated really quickly is kind of like a choose your own adventure so that, you're still the director, you still have the seat, and you can control where this goes and kind of refine it with your creativity, but you still have GPT-5 here giving you a lot of great options here. And if they don't have what you want, I'm sure we could say something else, like a different influence to get different types of options as well.
Yeah, so it's pretty good. I think it's a very good tool to kind of like brainstorm with. Let's do one more. I want to see how it does like dialogue. So I'll copy another prompt and see how it generates dialogue. So this one is just two people debating about something and see how it handles it. I will say it's hard for me to read this and like imagine what it sounds
It
like.
is, yeah. Reading it, I can't really imagine it as easily. It seems very, I don't know, broken up, but I do see they're kind of like handing off the dialogue between each other. It's just really hard for me to visualize how this would sound really, really good or really bad. Is it cringy? It's hard to tell,
Yeah.
at least through the text.
But it is interesting. Like it did follow it pretty well. There's a lot of interruptions, a lot of breath beats. So yeah, I think it did a pretty good job in terms of giving the output that you might want as a writer. So overall, I think GPT-5 did a pretty decent job going through the different prompts. Let's jump to Claude.
Somehow, I kind of like Claude's style a little bit better. I don't know what it is specifically, but it just seems to flow better, at least for me.
I agree. I don't
But
I
they're
don't know what
both.
it is either, but like I agree. Like I was able to read through this perfectly fine. I actually thought it was interesting, and I would love to read more. I didn't feel
Mhm.
that way with ChatGPT's output.
Yeah, ChatGPT just had something off about it. Like it just felt too, I don't know if it's mechanical or what, but this one feels like I'm actually reading a book. Like it flows a lot nicer and I can visualize it a lot better either, too.
Okay, let's try to we'll keep the comparisons for later. But yeah, so Claude, it feels like this is more readable. It feels more intriguing, like it's actually from a real book. So let's give it a second prompt, which is giving it the four scenarios and giving us like things that we can consider for what Lena would do in different situations. Let's do this one. So the trigger is Holocaust Memorial wants to include testimonies from damaged wire recordings. One survivor's account has a 30-second gap where Lena hears spectral voices. So choice A, present the recording with a gap marked as inaudible. Choice B, include her transcription of her ghost prayers. It's a little bit harder for me to read. I see what it's trying to get at. What do you think?
Yeah, I also feel the same way. I don't know, I wish I could pick out the technical parts, but I'm not really good with English. It's just like to me, the choices are clear, but it doesn't resonate as much with me to the triggers. And I don't know, like present the recording with a gap marked as inaudible due to the degradation. And then if you look at like below for the short-term versus long-term cost, you have a historical accuracy preserve, which causes a powerful testimony of losses, emotional impact, visitors miss deeper horror. Like it's harder for me to follow this as much. I have to think a little harder to understand what these options are trying to give me.
Yeah, there's something that it's like using like very short language to convey the idea that I don't. It's really hard for me to connect. So I agree with that. Let's do the last prompt. So try to see how it does with dialogue. Here's my thoughts. I feel like the way it structures some of this, the words, like it says like taps metronome in italics, and then it says like the dialogue. I feel like that's not the right way of writing out like a scene like this. Like in a book or in a script, I feel like it's not written that way. I might be wrong, but I haven't seen it formatted this way. That said, like the dialogue seems realistic in a way. I don't know how to explain it, but like I can almost visualize like these two characters. There's no description, right? It doesn't say whether A and B is male and female or whatever. It's just like just two people talking, but like the way like this one, or picks up drumstick, twirls it of breathing. Like I can completely visualize that person picking up a drumstick, twirling it, even like the way they're just like very casual about it. It just feels more realistic to me.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. I think this one was a lot easier to read than the previous one. And yeah, I don't know if the italics is how you would usually write the visual parts, but even then, it's still very easy for me to like parse this and be able to visualize it and know what they're saying at the same time.
Okay, let's wrap this up. Let's do a direct head-to-head comparison. First prompt. This is the one where we said like you are Lena. This is your character. This is what you do. Claude. I feel like this version was very easy to read. It was very kind of realistic in terms of like how we would expect a book to sound. For ChatGPT, when it did the same one, there was something very, you use the right word here, mechanical about it that I just couldn't really get into it. And it just felt, I don't know, it felt like natural to me.
Yeah, you pretty much said it all. I have no comment on that.
Okay, so in that sense, I think Claude won it for me. Now let's jump to the next one, the four micro scenarios. So generate four scenarios, show each, like the trigger, the choice, the cost, and the gain. I really like the way ChatGPT did it, actually. Like, I like that there's a trigger, very easy to see. Choice A with its short-term and long-term benefits, and then choice B. It helped me compare and contrast a little bit better. And I was thinking, like, as a creative writer, if I'm looking at this, I can say, okay, choice A, yeah, it looks like this. I really I like this gain and I like this cost versus like choice B. It just feels easier to read through the entire thing. Whereas Claude, its version of this, I don't know. It just felt like it was presented in a very like shortcut way that I just struggle to really make that comparison the same way.
Yeah, it's hard to compare the content because the format is so different for me for Claude, and Claude's format is more confusing. Like the short term versus long term, the way it's formatted here is much more confusing to me than the way that ChatGPT did, which is very easier to skim and read and be able to like know, okay, this is not a good option. Versus if I read through Claude, I have to like read through everything because it's not very easy to skim as the ChatGPT's response, and I'm not sure I'm a big fan of the way that Claude kind of formatted this.
I agree. Um, for the last one, uh, this is just about like the dialogue. So starting with Claude, uh, again, I don't think this is the right format for showing like action within like a dialogue, but I felt like the dialogue was more realistic. Like I was able to read through it. I can kind of pick up like the personalities of these two people, even though there's no other description, and also just like it just doesn't feel it just feels natural in a way that when we look at ChatGPT, the version of it is I don't know. There's something about it that just feels off. And actually, like the formatting is very similar too. It has like the parentheses within the same line in italics, but something about it that just felt very mechanical.
Yeah, I don't know how to point it out, but it is very similar to the very first challenge that it just there's something off about it. It just doesn't read as well as the others. So, yeah, I agree with you there.
Okay, so let's to summarize. GPT-5 wins in the showing the different micro scenarios, but then Claude wins it with
Yeah.
the initial exposition and then the dialogue. At least in our opinions, what would you say is like a takeaway for someone who's trying to figure out which one to use for writing?
Yeah, if you want or sorry, if you want to actually write the chapters of the book, I think having Claude write those is a lot better than if you had ChatGPT write those. But if you're just using it for idea exploration, then I think having ChatGPT as like your scenario partner would work a lot better, mainly because it's easier to read, the formats are clean, and it seems to be giving you the right choices. And it's just easier to work with than the Claude. Claude seems like a much more frustrating experience when it comes to scenarios.
I agree, and I think I like the voice from Claude a lot better, not just in like writing scenarios, but just in general, like just chatting. But I agree, like the way it lays out the reasoning in ChatGPT is a little bit easier. But I think I just need to play around with it more. I'm kind of curious. The reading through all these different things makes me want to write this book out now that I'm looking at it. Like that's kind of cool. Like ghost stories and recordings. That's pretty sick. We'll have to see if I can make this a story by the end of the year.
Now that I'm thinking about it, Claude is like the creative person who is really good at writing, and the ChatGPT is like a very mechanical person who's very like technical. And I could see that, for the scenario generation, you want to be mechanical a little bit, right? Like you want to be able to, split into different scenarios that actually link to the original story and have it formatted in a very mechanical way that's easy, predictable, and doesn't have a lot of different creativity in terms of the format, but like it's very predictable in that sense. I feel like these two could be even used together as a duo.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, it doesn't have to be just one. You could just use it for its different strengths. Cool. It sounds like we have a creative writing project in our hands. We're just a PM and an engineer trying to figure out AI. If you're on the same path, subscribe and learn with us.